Want to get into Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Obviously, Disney Plus, episode 6 just dropped. Every single Tuesday, a new episode. Your character introduced in episode 5.
Yes.
And now we're up to episode 6. So how you feeling?
I mean, awesome, honestly. Just to see the reaction from kids, but not only that, from families. That's been really fun to see. Like, I've had a lot of friends text and say, "Hey, we're connecting with our kids on this."
Wow.
And when you can be involved in something that does that, I mean, that feels pretty great. And then to see the finished product too, and see just how good it is. Definitely proud to be a part of that, and just to be a part of something Disney. Like, if you had, I don't know, if you had told me that at one point when I'm 50 years old that I'd be wrestling in a different company and on a Disney show, I'd say you're pretty crazy.
But you're doing it.
But I'm doing it.
And congratulations on it.
Thank you.
Adam, how did doing this Disney show compare to any of the other shows you may have filmed before?
Well, this is the first one that we can watch as a family, which is
Right.
which is amazing. And the girls were already fans of the world and the universe that is Percy Jackson. And the other stuff I did, if I'm playing a Viking, putting heads on poles, singing Viking sagas, we're not going to be watching that one. But this is actual, we all sit down together Tuesday nights. Last night they sent me pictures of all of them in bed watching. And I don't know, it's just there's something extra about being able to watch it with my kids and have them be that excited about it. Whether I was in this show or not, they would be totally into this. Like, they'd love this show.
Well, you're somebody that obviously athletic, creative, the acting bug. Was that something that you've always had, or is it something that just kind of came natural to you?
I wouldn't say anything in terms of speaking ever came naturally to me. Even promos within wrestling, that took a lot of work. That took a lot of woodshedding to find my voice, to find comfort in that. I went to school for radio and television hoping it would help me with promos, and it did to an extent. It helped me with timing, inflection, and all of those things. But acting was never a goal of mine. It fell accidentally into my lap after I retired, when I started filming Haven, and I realized, okay, if I can't wrestle, which is my first love, this is still creative and it's still telling stories. It's just a different way of doing it. I've always said it's the same tree, it's just different branches. But I realized pretty quickly it tapped that creative vein, and it still allowed me to be involved in a creative process. And it's really fun. It's just the differences, right? So with wrestling, it's that live interaction. It's that immediate gratification to know whether what you're doing is working or not. And that's really fun. Or just going out with a live mic and having no idea what you're going to say. There's something really, really fun about that. There's also something really fun about having a script and going, wow, okay, I can think about some of my decisions beforehand and make some choices beforehand and see if they work. And if they don't, well, then they don't. But it's a very collaborative process. Sometimes with wrestling, you're out there alone.
Yeah.
And again, that's really fun. So it's just subtle differences, but I love acting now. I really do.
Is it the fun that's keeping you still involved in wrestling? Because now that you're doing acting, and listen, Disney Plus, that's big. Like you said, a Disney production, that's huge. And, going on Disney Plus right now, the banner for the show is right up at top. This is, they're putting a lot of stock into the show. Is it the fun that keeps you involved in pro wrestling?
Anything I do at this stage of life has to be fun, or I'm not going to do it. And again, for me, wrestling was the first love. And it always will be. That can never be taken away. It will always be that. And I still find so much fun in it. The minute it stops being fun is the minute I need to be done. And because it was taken away from me the first time, to get this thing back, and then to come back and have this whole new generation of talent that I've never, performed with, laid hands on, got in there with. Yeah, it's fun. I've repeatedly, I've just said how much fun I'm having. And that's what it all boils down to. Like, no matter what I'm doing, I'm having fun, or I wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be wrestling Griff Garrison if I didn't find the fun in that. I wouldn't be wrestling Lee Moriarty if I didn't find the fun in that. It's just a blast. I've truly felt like since I stopped working at a car seat factory, I haven't worked a day in my life.
Good for you.
Adam, I had a question about your acting career, but you just said something that triggered a different question. If you weren't having fun, you wouldn't be wrestling anymore. And I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
What if the money was great, which I'm sure it is, as you're worth every dime, but the fun wasn't there?
I mean, this may sound like a lie, but I'm at a stage of life that if it's not fun, I don't need the money. And I
That's
know
awesome.
that sounds really, really bad. Uh, but I was always very smart. You know, I still drive a pickup truck. You know, I don't waste my money. It hurt too much to make. So if I'm doing it, it's purely for the joy of it. And also because I realized fairly quickly after having my girls, well, after Beth had them, but I was a part of the process. I realized that if I don't do something, then I'm not completing Adam. You know, I still need to do something and not just be just dad. I still have to go after my interests, and that makes me a better dad.
That's important.
And-
You said that speaking, being on a microphone, performing didn't come natural for you. But now you look at everything that you're doing as a professional wrestler with a microphone in your hand, acting. Like, even though it wasn't natural for you, when was that stage for you where you finally became comfortable with being a performer?
Oh gosh, you know, I started to feel comfortable in the Brood, but it wasn't really until Edge and Christian, ENC, and we started to show a little bit of our sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I really started to get comfortable hearing my own voice. You know, that whole thing, because your voice sounds way different when you hear it back.
Yes.
You know, it just does. It doesn't sound like you. It's like, that's me. That's when I started to feel comfortable with my own skin out there. But then when we split up as a team, I went through it all over again. And then I had to rediscover what this incarnation was. And that, man, that took some search until I finally found it. And then with acting, I even, you know, I was reticent to call myself an actor for ages. It wasn't until about the third season of Haven I went, okay, I'm an actor now. You know, I have like 100 episodes of television under my belt now. Like, I guess I'm an actor now. And that took some time though.
Adam, we've had this conversation in the past, but for our listeners, how much of your acting career has helped you in the ring, and is it bleeding over into the ring?
So what I think happened, the pandemic really showed me what it did, because I had the first promo of the pandemic era, and there was no audience. I'm in a warehouse. I'm in the ring with Sweaty, and the countdown's happening, the intro to Raw, and I said, Sweaty, I got to come down the barrel. There's no other choice. But it didn't dawn on me until that. So
And by coming down the barrel, you mean look directly into the camera?
Straight into the camera, and now I have to direct this promo at Randy, and it was toward Randy Orton, right? So then I treated it like a monologue or an audition. But that happened in those seconds before. I was like, ooh, got to change the mindset now. But it didn't dawn on me until standing in the ring and we're about to go live, because of course we still went live. That was really interesting, and that's when I realized how much that bringing some of my acting skills to this medium was going to be very helpful. And that's what I enjoyed about the pandemic, was the promos, because now I felt like I could dive into extra details that you might not have picked up before, whether it was tells, whether it was ticks, whether all on purpose. But now they'd get seen, they'd get heard, because there was no audience participation there. So you got to pull the positives, right? And that for me was the positive that I was able to find from that, is how much acting actually brought to the table for my promos.
I don't know if you felt this, but as a fan watching, I felt I really saw the acting career bleed over significantly when you did the promo in ring WWE. I think you were working with Orton when you were sitting in the corner of the ring. It wasn't in front of a live audience. You were just sitting in the corner, and it was a very somber version of yourself. And I did not feel like I, I did not feel you were acting, but obviously it seemed like some of your acting skills bled over into that. Did you feel like that specific promo was one of your parts of your work?
Well, what was fun about it is, I just went in my ring, set up a camera, and just banged it out one take. And you always have to have any good promo, any good character has to have those elements of truth. And I've always said if I have those elements of truth within my wrestling character, even if it's within the character of Aries, things that I can relate to, that Adam can relate to, if I can bite onto those truths, then the fiction will follow. It should anyway. And it was through acting that I started to understand that. That whatever character that I was inhabiting, I had to find things that Adam could relate to try and bring this to life. Okay, so I play this slowly going insane Viking. Okay, why is he going insane? Oh, his pregnant daughter was murdered. Right, got that. I you know, I could tap into that, and I could take it that place because of that. With Aries, it's like, okay, he has jealousies. He's a god, but he's insecure. He's jealous of his sister. He's envious of his father. There's a lot of things that I know and have felt that you can play off of. And that's the same with a wrestling promo. I got to find a truth in it in order for it to sound real to a wrestling audience.
When you're doing Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and again, Disney Plus streaming, new episodes available every Tuesday. We're up to episode 6. In wrestling, you need to have chemistry with your opponent. Is that the same when you're acting with your cast?
Absolutely. And this was the first time that I really did significant scenes with younger actors, and I was blown away in seeing the finished product and seeing what they do in terms of they being, Walker and Ari and Leah. I don't know how they do it at their age. Like, what are they pulling from? To what life experiences do they have?
They just started. They just started out. Yeah.
Right. Like, I got the lines on my face. There's a reason, because I lived. I don't know where they pull it from, but I'm watching the episodes going, man, they're really good. And more importantly too, they're really good kids. And they're good people. You can tell they're raised well too. So that definitely has something to do with it. But so in between, setups and everything, by the way, they're going to school. They go to a trailer to do their schooling and then come back and do scenes, and mind blowing what they've been pulling off. But you definitely need that chemistry. And pretty quickly I had chemistry with them. Because the boys, especially the guys, they're in their Rocky Balboa phase. So they're into how many push-ups can you do? How many chin-ups can you do? And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So now it's like, okay, am I going to have to do push-up contests with these guys in between? Because they're going to smoke me.
So in wrestling, I'll just use us as an example. The 6 of us had a chemistry right off the bat, but it took a little bit of time for that chemistry to really evolve into what it became. How do you have chemistry on the set with your fellow actors as quickly as you're describing?
Well, it doesn't always happen. That's the other thing. Or like any opponent in a ring, you might instantly get it, or it could be work, and you eventually get there, but you might not have that opportunity. With the actors for Percy, I pretty quickly we had a rapport, and I got along with their parents. It was very quick, and also I felt very comfortable with this character. Like, the minute I read the audition for Aries, like, I know it. I know this. I know the comedic beats. I'm going to try and bring those forward. For whatever, I just had a blast doing it. Like, Beth read with me and she goes, "You had a lot of fun with that." I was like, "Yeah, I really did." But you got to throw it out of your head once it goes. But I think that also, I felt very comfortable going in on set that day with where I had the character in my mind. So that also helped. There was no second guessing on my end. So I was able to just do what I thought Aries would do, and they were able to pick up what I was putting down.
Are you at the point in your acting career where you're Adam Copeland, the actor, not the wrestler Adam Copeland that's acting?
I guess that's up to everybody else, right? I think being a wrestler will always be there. It's what I've always done. It's what I think I do best, besides hopefully being a dad. And it's what again, it's my first love. So I have no problem being the wrestler turned actor or wrestler actor or actor wrestler. It's part of what I do, and I'm proud of it. It's all I ever wanted to do.
Good for you. I mean, it's a great hearing that, because that's just accepting what
Yeah.
you've done and what you've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, like if people say, "Hey, Edge," I'm like, I'll answer to it because I get it. Answered Adam Copeland. Hell, you call me Aries, I'll probably answer to it too. Like, hey, Adam, nice to meet you.
The style of acting, I believe it's called method acting, when you go into the character in your real life and you're living the life of that character, like a Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abraham Lincoln or something like that, right?
Jim Carrey with Andy Kaufman.
Yes, absolutely.
Those
Is
are
that
also called annoying actors as well.
But
Daniel
brilliant.
Day-Lewis is phenomenal,
Brilliant.
by the way. Is that something that you would like to try one day?
I don't know if I could go that fully down that wormhole. What I did do with Vikings, though, we were supposed to be starving, so I lost 40 pounds. And I looked it. So I went that route. I thought, okay, I can go the physical route with this and change my diet and change my training so that I look like I'm a starving Viking, because the scenes call for that. You know, that was part of the tipping point for this character going insane, was a giant whale washing up on his shore. Well, I need to look the part, at least in my way of thinking. And a lot of the other actors jumped on board too, because we were supposed to be in Greenland stranded. Thankfully with Aries, it was nice because I didn't have to deplete myself of anything. If anything, he's eating cheeseburgers, you know, in the episode. So I was allowed to eat my Five Guys.
So having to lose so much weight for Vikings, you probably wouldn't have recommended Dreamer for that role, right?
Oh, come on.
Oh my God. Dreamer might have been the whale.
Oh, come on.
I'm
guys.
sorry, Tommy.
Come on, guys.
Oh, Tommy.
That's terrible.
Tommy. Tommy.
Yes.
Oh, Tommy.
Tommy.
Is cheeseburgers your cheat meal?
Cheeseburgers, donuts, cookies. It's going to be one of those three.
Okay.
If there's a day where I get cheeseburgers and donuts and cookies, giddy up. I'm a happy man. But I'm a donut snob.
Okay.
And I'm a cookie snob too.
All right. For me, when I decided to make radio my career, I had like kind of like a bucket list, a list of things I wanted to do. Two of those things was interviews I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I've been able to do those interviews. Actually, I've done those two interviews in this room that we're in right now. I got to interview Ric Flair and I got to interview Alice Cooper.
Wow.
Is there like a list of people that you want to work with as an actor?
Oh my gosh. You know, I get asked stuff like this and then I'll remember after the fact. But like you speak about a Daniel Day-Lewis and just to share what he brings would be so insane. I know he's not acting anymore, but just that intensity, that commitment would be interesting to just watch. And again, like a guy like Tom Cruise and how intense and what he brings, you have to appreciate that. You know, I've always said, you know, Stallone, for me, his commitment to seeing through the fact that he was going to play Rocky. I love that story. He stuck to his guns.
Yep.
He stuck to his guns with First Blood, that John Rambo is not going to be killed. And instead, we get that speech that he tells Colonel Troutman about that will still almost bring me to tears every time I watch it. You know, I know those might not be the usual names you think of, but those are actors that affected me while I was growing up, that hit me right in the heart. I know there's more, and I'm forgetting so many, and there's so many great actors. Like I'm watching Fargo right now, and Juno Temple, like she's just crushing it. She did in Ted Lasso as well, but there's so many talented people.
There's something that's interesting to me, because you mentioned Sylvester Stallone, and Sylvester Stallone's work will stand the test of time.
Yep.
You know, the Rocky movies, the Rambo movies. But there was a time when I was growing up that he didn't get a lot of the credit that he deserved, because he was just like an action movie actor and didn't get a lot of credit. But we know now that those moments will last forever. In your career as a wrestler, you've created moments that will last forever. Like you have had moments, like you talked about, like these speeches that brought tears to your eye. My daughter, when you came back at the Royal Rumble, tears in her eye. Like, do you understand like that you've given people moments that will last 25, 30, 40, 50 years down the road?
It's weird. You almost get desensitized a little bit, right? When you're in the wrestling bubble for so long, you kind of forget what it is to be outside of that wrestling bubble and what it is to be purely a fan of something again. But I think back to when I was a kid and I went to Blockbuster Video and I saw Bret Hart and I saw Kurt Hennig and I met them and I talked to them and they talked to me and I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that experience. Like I was just chilling out with Mr. Perfect and the Hitman, you know? So when I rewind back and remember how wrestling made me feel when I was that age or when I was outside of that bubble before you find out, Santa Claus, is,
Yep.
yeah. So I don't want to ruin it in case there's kids listening.
Yeah, Paul, our producer, is still a believer.
Or Mick Foley.
I just realized, I was like, oh no.
Earmuffs, Paul.
But so I haven't really tended to look at it like that. The one thing I will say in coming back, when I retired, there wasn't people filming their reactions to things that happen. And when I came back at the Rumble, I started seeing those. That kind of blew me away because I didn't expect that. I wasn't even thinking about that. So that was pretty cool.
Adam, you said a word that really resonated with me, which is desensitized, because it happened to me a lot. The wrestling business, especially the business, when we were involved in it, yada, yada, you get desensitized a lot. The question is, did it bleed into your real life? Were you desensitized so much by wrestling that it bled into your personal also? To real life emotion?
I don't think so. I always tried to keep them really separate. That I thought about it a lot, and I thought about choices to make and what about this and what about that. But I tried to keep it as separate as I could. And again, throughout the years, Adam, nice to meet you. I always played a character. That for me was usually fairly easy to keep separate. But this incarnation, however, is closer to Adam than anything I've ever done. So that's interesting because now everyone knows my story, not the character's story. My story is the character's story now, and that becomes a little interesting, But what I will say is having it pulled away from me for 9 years made me really appreciate it when I got it back and how much I love this thing and not to be desensitized. Now, also, the schedule isn't what it was. I'm with AEW, so at most I'm wrestling twice a week as opposed to 250 times a year, or whatever that was. It's easy to get desensitized then, and I did get there. But in this run, man, I wrestled 3 times last week for the first time since 2010, and I had a blast. Just an absolute blast, It's
the 9 years the 9 years away probably did help you, because I know that I have moments where I see stuff that was done in the past and I'm like, wow, I wish I had like a memory of it. I think I was just so desensitized to, yep, we did what we did and we throw it away as soon as it's done and done on to the next one. So I think that 9 years probably helped you a lot.
It did. And every time I come out now, every entrance, I'm soaking that in and I'm throwing out as much energy as I have in my body because I'm like, man, I'm doing this again. I've said this, and I think I said it to you. Like everything from getting cleared on is a victory. All of it. Every single bit of it.
Last question, because you're a busy man. You're doing the rounds here, promoting the show. Wrestler, accomplished, actor, accomplished, husband, father. Is there one goal left to achieve for you?
I'd like to write a children's book.
Okay.
I've always wanted to do that, especially now having kids. I think that would be really fun. I don't know, maybe part 2 of the autobiography, because there's been almost more since I wrote that first one than took place in the first one, if that makes any sense. When I retire, I want to properly learn guitar, just for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just for your own.
Just for my own, sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee.
What song would you want to learn first?
Well, if it's electric, what's the Frequency Kenneth by REM? There's something about that jangly guitar that just sounds so cool. to me.
Okay, all right.
So I think that would probably be first for electric. I'll pick a Pearl Jam for something acoustic.
I'm sure you would. And then,
Dave, tell him what you were really thinking when he told you about the REM song. Go ahead, Dave.
I saw the.
Look at his face. Just look at him.
I saw the vacant look.
I was deflated.
It wasn't Kiss. It wasn't Judas Priest. I'll get there. But a little more technically, at least Judas Priest.
Yeah.
I
was a little
I
deflated.
could probably pull off a Kiss song.
I was a little deflated when you mentioned REM. I got to be honest with you.
Or Weezer. A good Weezer power pop.
Let's now it's the perfect time to end the interview. Percy Jackson and the Olympians. No disrespect. I mean, Bully mentioned Foo Fighters before, another overrated band. Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Who are
now
you?
Streaming.
What do you have where your soul is supposed to be? What vacant,
I'm just doing
vapid black hole inhabits where
Three
your
wives. He's been
reside?
desensitized.
Jesus. All right.
Now streaming on Disney Plus. New episode drops each and every Tuesday. Adam Copeland, thanks so much for the time and great luck with the series.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.